So dudes, it's been a while. Ordinarily this video was supposed to be delayed by about 2 years because every time someone asks me on stream when I do this video, I delay it by another month. So you can imagine how many times I've been asked that. But because I'm not an asshole and I need to get back to making actual videos and not gotcha salt like literally every other FGO YouTuber not named Honako Green, including myself by the way, here's the video on Gil y'all wanted. Actually, scratch that, I am an asshole, but only towards people who think Tomo is dead on JP. But this isn't the time for that topic, that'll be for another video. Instead, we're here to talk about FGO's resident clay fucker because speaking of assholes, yes, it's a bit hard to be a bigger asswipe than this fuck. Jinrui Saiko no O, Taihai no Eiyu o, King of Heroes, Linchpin of Heaven, Arrogant Fuckboy. You could probably make his whole stat chart on the wiki about just the titles he's got with how many of them he has. In other words, Gil sounds like he's the type of guy who's always got something up his ass, and it should be obvious what it is once you realize what Enkidu's class is. Gilgamesh is FGO's very first limited SSR servant, which is quite fitting for a guy who's known as humanity's oldest king, and he's got the rare distinction of being one of FGO's male cash cows due to how iconic he is in the Fate series in general. Now imagine if DW put out a gender-bent version of him. Rest in pieces all you Angelica simps. After all his buffs, Gil is essentially your FGO starter package servant. Technically, he's meant to be a crit archer who can go toe-to-toe with most servants in the game, regardless of class, well, except for maybe Lancers, due to his unique Enema Elish mechanic, but in reality, he's a nuke archer, farming archer, and buster crit meme all in one, as long as you have Merlin with him. Oh wait, you can't find Merlin on your support lists anymore, can you? Kirai's boyfriend is very clearly a DPS archer, and of course his stats reflect this, with over 12k attack rating, and only around 13k HP at level 90. His MP generation stat might be quite low at only 0.34%, but keep in mind that not only does he have a strong MP generation buff, but he's also an archer with his own star weight buff, meaning that he should crit easily and have plenty of chances to score arts crits to manually charge his MP fast. His face cards are also ridiculously strong, with all of his cards having 5 hits and his extra having 8. This is pretty noteworthy considering Gil is a year 1 FGO servant where most servants back then had shitty hit counts in their face cards, in part because DW didn't understand how their own game worked. In case you don't realize why this is a big deal, hit counts are central to the performance of most servants who aren't dedicated support casters, and in Gil's case, he used to be a better star generator than most assassins in the game not named Cursed Arm, which says a lot about assassins as a class if star gen is meant to be their job. It's a bit better now that assassins these days, for the most part, have hit counts indicative of their class's role in FGO, but it's not like DW nerfed Gil's hit counts in the process, so he can still be his own star gen if he consistently hits his brave chains. Unlike his hit counts though, his skill set is pretty simple and a sign of his origins as one of the OG FGO servants. His S1 is a charisma, you know what these are, just a straight up party attack buff for 3 turns. This was long before DW began standardizing some of the more common buff archetypes like charisma, back at the start of the game when they thought that giving servants different ranks of the same skill was a good idea. You Salter and Lalter simps out there know better than everyone else what that feels like. In any case, to no one's surprise, the world's biggest Saberface simp got the long end of Enkidu's stick and got a charisma with a 21% scaling, which is actually better than the usual 10 to 20% attack buff scaling that most servants with charisma type skills have these days, even if it's only by a little bit. Also, being that Saberface simp, he'd get along real nicely with Takaguchi, I'd imagine. His S2 is also pretty simple, a golden rule with 20 to 50% MP generation buff scaling. Incidentally, this is the same skill that some Electric Boy has, but anyways, this skill is meant to be used with Gil's arts cards, specifically when he's got stars on them for insane MP gain if used correctly. And as if that weren't enough, his S3 is just a straight up 30% charge after its buff on top of the 300 to 600% star weight buff that it originally had. Not only does this charge make him compatible with Waver Merlin nuke setups, but it also turns Gil into the dedicated crit archer that he's known to be, because this combined with his default archer star weight almost guarantees that he'll be hogging all the stars for his own selfish ass, assuming he's not bringing someone like Dio along to see if they can kill enemies just by laughing at them for being fucking Zasshu. His passives include an 11% crit damage buff, 10% magic resist, and divinity that gives him a little extra damage. Because his skills don't give him his own crit buff, he at least has a passive that covers this a bit, but obviously you want sports who can give him thicker crit buffs like their cowboys at Ram Ranch. Together, his skill set, while pretty simple compared to the obscene skills that DW's been handing out to new servants these days, like it's Halloween come early, which is funny given what JP's last Halloween event was. Oh wait! Gil still has a solid foundation for his immense gameplay potential, which is being a buster crit archer. And let's be honest, if DW thought that giving his half Zasshu ass a second set of animation updates was okay, then you know for a damn fact that they'll buff his skills too at some point. Forget the Illuminati and Street Fighter, there's a goddamn Gilluminati going on at Delightworks right now, and they're the reason why Nerofest ain't a thing anymore. Wake up, sheeple! Well, tinfoil hat conspiracies aside, Gil's super art, Noble Phantasm, is an AoE Buster MP with arguably the game's strongest overcharge effect, which is his Enema Elish gimmick that lets him deal a shit ton more damage to any servant that has the weak to enemas trait. Given that Gil likes having Enkidu's spear up his own asshole, this should make a lot of sense. Oh, and did I say a shit ton more damage? Because I meant to say a fuck ton more damage. You've probably already heard from other FGO YouTubers who've done reviews for this clay-loving prick that post MP buff, Gil starts doing single target damage against servants who are weak to getting anally probed. That's because his MP buff combines improved damage scaling, a free 30% MP damage buff because fuck you I'm Gilgamesh, and his already powerful overcharge, the latter two of which stack multiplicatively because in FGO, most MP overcharge effects that deal conditional damage like this are treated as their own unique buff type. By this point, the meme I made about Gil being FGO's starter package for newer players who are just getting into the game, or for scrubs whose brains are too small to use anything other than Buster Crit memes should be coming together. Gil's NP is strong enough to yeet servants even without class advantage, and whatever he doesn't kill with EA can easily be handled with loot boxes and in-game microtransactions. Buster Crits. Sorry, wrong company. And because Enema Elish is AoE, Gil can easily double as a standard farmer, again, potentially even in non-class advantage situations because he doesn't really give a shit about what class you are, so long as you're fine with how goddamn long his MP animation itself is. Maybe except Lartoria. And maybe Lalter. Actually, on that note, if there's one downside to Gil's skill set, it's that he doesn't have his own hard defense skill or any defensive effect at all for that matter. Probably because he thinks evades and invuls are for pussies and doesn't bother using them. And you wonder why Shiro, both versions of him actually, were able to kill him in UBW. I bet he wished FGO gave him invul or something for that scene, huh? Again, in any case, Arrogant Fuckboy's optimal setup is in, well, obviously a crit team. Set him up with 2 support casters, preferably Waver and Merlin, and make sure that there's a way to let Gil chug all your stars like he chugged all of Kire's wine. Merlin is the important one here. Obviously you want that juicy 100% crit buff and 50% buster buff. However, because Hero Creation's crit buff is only for 1 turn, it's not great for sustained crit damage, in case that's what you're going for. So Waver's S1, which a lot of you forgot has a crit buff because y'all only care for its 30% charge, comes in real handy here. If you don't have one or the other, Helena can sub in as a backup support with her skill set that includes her own party 20% charge, projection, and star regen skill. Ideally, you want to give Gil both crit damage and buster buffs, since he can't give himself his own buster buff, so Annie Blonde should be your Mystic Code of choice here, unless you need another Mystic Code for some sustain. Perhaps fittingly, Enkidu can actually work as Gil's teammate here thanks to his triple quick deck that he can use to generate stars for his boy toy. Unfortunately, he doesn't have actual support skills, but as long as you have Merlin or another strong support caster to be your third, I'm sure you can still make the Babylonian Brokeback boys work if you really wanted to. Your CE selection on Gil should be whatever his teammates can't provide. If you lack buster damage, give him LZO for Sunrise or anything that provides it. Fittingly, CEs that have Gil on them, like Gil in New York or Conquest of Stars, work very well on him too. If you don't have crit damage, give him CEs that have crit damage, like Rin Butt or Victor. And for farming subs, as I alluded to earlier in the video, Waver Merlin nuke teams are perfect for Gil, so Black Grail setups are absolute bangers whenever you can pull those off. His own Bond CE gives him 30% more MP damage and a permanent 30% chance to give himself a 10% crit damage stack that lasts for 3 turns every time he attacks. This sounds complicated at first, but you'll get it once you see it. In essence, it's a self-sufficient way for Gil to get the crit buffs that he needs to be a crit archer. This CE actually isn't useless like most Bond CEs are, and if a fight goes right, Gil can do absolutely stupid things with his crit stacks. However, it's more consistent for you to use another CE instead, since it's just more efficient for your supports to provide the crit buffs, though I still recommend giving his Bond CE a try in case you have it or once you get it, if only for the memes. In summary, the world's oldest heart surgeon is FGO's version of a pay-to-win starter package that you can find in every other shitty generic mobile game that exists, except this one shoots big fucking swords at people and calls them mongrels while he does his best Risitas impression. So as far as pay-to-win bundles go, this one ain't so bad. Well, unless you're talking about how much it costs to drag his ass out of the gacha in the first place. Make sure to give him the buffs he needs, and you can pretty much throw him at most things, then he'll be fine. Also, the Gil in FGO is different from the Gil in FSN, so he's actually unironically pretty cool in FGO. Just maybe keep your Ilia and your Sitanai at a safe distance away from him in case the trauma they have from their heart surgeries kicks back in again. And that's all you need to know about the haunted Gil plushie that drinks all your wine and calls you Zasshu. The next video is going to be on Oak to Altar, and hopefully that video will be out in just a couple hours after this one. If you've enjoyed the memes, consider dropping a sub on the channel. I also stream FGO and other gacha games over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ToeSniper98. So I'd appreciate it if you could drop a follow over there as well, or if you just stop by to hang out whenever I'm live. Thanks for watching, and until next time, deuces.